Welcome back, developers, and in this tutorial we're going to be covering functions in C programming. Some people say C is a functional programming, some say it's a procedural programming. With that out of the way, let's learn how this format or the syntax of a function in C. So this is it. We have two types of functions in C. We have predefined or built-in functions, and then we have user-defined in functions. So in this tutorial, we're going to be mainly dealing with user-defined functions. Guess what? You've already used built-in or predefined functions like int main. Like this one is a predefined function. So this void, so a function, these are the parts of the function. This void, it's the return type of that function. So by void, we are saying this function is returning nothing. And then add, this is the name of the function. And int num1, this is the first parameter of this void add function. And then int num2, this is the second parameter of our add function. So there are two things that we must do when dealing with functions. First, we have to declare our function. After declare our function, we define our function. So by defining our functions, we're saying we are now including the body of the function. Then this is another example of a function, this int main, but this one is a built-in or a predefined function. Here we are now calling our function. So there are these are the three things that we must happen when we're dealing with functions. Though declaring a function is optional, but these two things you must do. Your function, you must first define your function. Secondly, you have to call your function. This is the most important part of when writing functions. You must call your function. So you pass in your arguments, or we call them actual parameters right here. So why functions? Someone may ask, why should we use a function? So here are some of the advantages of using functions in programming. Number one is the reusability of code. Functions, once defined, can be used in several times. So consider a remote. Actually, I wanted to get a remote, an image of a remote, but I forgot to do that. So but imagine this: you see on a remote have buttons, and every button on a remote actually represents a function. So you have the play button, you have the next button. Those are built-in functions that have been programmed inside that remote. That I'm talking about the TV remote, by the way. So if you're lost, so these are what we are saying. So functions provide the abstraction. By abstraction, we are saying you don't need to know how it works internally. All you need to do is to use that function, like printf. Have you ever wondered how print works? How printf works behind the scene? No, it's not necessary. So that's what abstraction means. Number two, we have function allows modular design of code. We can divide program into small modules. Modular programming leads to better code readability, maintenance, and reusability. We all want clean code. Then it is easier to write programs using functions. You can write code for separate tasks individually in separate functions. You are going to see this very soon when we are demonstrating it practically. Then code maintenance and debugging is easier. In case of errors in a function, you only need to debug that particular function instead of debugging the entire program. With that out of the way, let's now jump right into the meat and potatoes of this tutorial. Having our first program, we are going to have our first program right here. Let us write a C program to implement a basic maths operations such as add, sub, div, amount using functions. So let's jump right inside our Visual Studio Code. So let's have this first. We are going to call this first.c since it's our first program, right? So let's these are by yes, we are trying to include our preprocessor, so we're going to cover this in more detail. in the next lesson. So here standard input output dot h, so that we get our printf and scanf. So our program here, we want to, after that, let's declare our function. This function, let's say we're going to have quite a number of functions here. We're going to have a function called add, a function called sub, and a function called div, and another one called mount. As you can see, we're now dividing our program into different sections. So I love functions a lot. So let's do that right away. So this int, we're saying our functions is going to return a data type of integer. So by saying int add, so this is the name of our function, and our function is going to take two parameters, int num. We're going to have int num1, and we separate our parameters with a comma, then another integer. Let's say int num, we are going to have int num2. We're going to have int num2. Then this is our function declaration, so we can terminate it. After that, what I wanted to do is to have our function definition and our declaration on the same line. So let's just do this thing at once, like this. So for addition, what is going to happen? Let's declare another variable. Let's call it sum, int sum, like this. So int sum equals to num num1 plus we want to have num1 plus num2, like this. So I hope you are following. Then we want to return, this function is going to return sum, like this. So we are done with defining our function sum. Let's go to the next function. So in order to save our time, I'm just going to copy and paste this code so that we save our precious time, but I want you to do it without pasting and copying. So let's change the name of this function to sub for subtraction. Then same thing, but we are going to say diff. We want diff here. This is going to be difference, like this, equals to num1 minus num2, like this. So we return diff what is it doing? I don't want to do that. Then return diff, like this. Yeah, everything is super. Let's paste again. Mount, let's just say div for our constant. We want to have it division right here. We are dividing, then return quotient, qt for quotient, and then let's call this qt, and then finally let's save our final function. So here, as you can see, we have declared 4 different functions, and this one is going to be called mount for multiplication, and then we are going to say int product equals to num1 times num2, like this, and then we change return prod. Yeah, I hope you are following this. After that, let's write our main function right now, as usual. So you can see we have been writing functions all along. There's nothing to fear here. So that what we want to do is to declare another 2 variable here. Int num, let's just say num1, and then again int num2, like this. So I hope you are all following right. Again, we are going to have int what are we going to have? Product int qt, let's say division, or we can say quotient division. Let's just say division. Then also int subtraction sub, let's just say sub. Then int product, like this. So we have 4, 1 2 3 4. Okay, everything is super. Now let's we want to scan the value of num1 and num2, right? So let's just print f like this. Let's print f and the value of num1 like this. So I hope you are still with me. Then we want to say scan f. You want to scan that value, right? I hope you are still with me. Some is our specifier %d, then and num1. So we get it from the user. Let me just copy these 2 lines and then paste them here. This will be num2, and then this will be num2 like this. So I hope you are still with me. So now what we are going to do is we are going to call our functions. Let me say calling our functions. Calling our functions right here. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to say prod. We all know we are going to store product is equal, or let's start with sum. Let me declare sum. I didn't declare sum. Int sum here. So we're going to use our first function sum. So let me say sum is equals to, so we are assigning the value of our function add to sum. What's the name of our function? It's add with sub. All right, so add, then we pass in num1 and num2 like this. So the return, so the value which is going to be returned by add function, we're assigning it to sum like this. Let's say product, we are assigning to mount. I hope this is the right thing I'm doing. Num1 and num2, then we terminate again. What's happening again? Let's have for, okay, let me write the s here for division, so that we don't get for division, this one is equals to qt. I think my is called what for division in div, it's called div. So our function is called div. Then we pass in our parameters, we pass in our arguments here. We're now passing in our arguments. So what's the difference between arguments and parameters? We then for subtraction, we are going to pass in, what's the name of the for the one for subtraction? Let's change it to subtraction. Alright, sub is equals to subtraction. Then we pass in our arguments again, and we terminate 1 2 3 4. So I think we are now done. So what's left is to print our, so let's have %d is sum, then we write the sum, new line, then we say %d is subtraction, or is difference, the difference between two numbers. Then again we put a new line, then we say %d is product, then we bring our new line, %d again is quotient, like this. Then we just put a new line, then we write our variables. So first one is sum, so let's just have sum, then comma, we followed by sub, comma, followed by product, so let's just say product right here, then followed by division, followed by the variable division, like this. So let's try to bring this on the next line, and then let's terminate this line. Let's see what's happening. Why do we still have an error? Let me try to see where the error is. So it seems like somewhere, somehow, we have an error. Right. So let me return 0 from our main function. Return 0 like this. I think something is wrong right here. Int division there is correct. %sum, a new line, please. % is quotient, new line. And then this is sum, this is subtraction, this is product, this is division, which is this one. So where are we getting the error from? Let's run our program and see where the error is coming from. Let's try to see where the error is coming from so that we know what to do. But basically this is how we do with functions in C programming. So I just want to see enter the value of num1. The error is gone. This program is no error. I don't know what was happening. Enter the value of num2. Let's just say 20. Everything is working super well. So hope you've been following. So basically this is how we deal with functions in C. All right, I really like this code, how we defined all these functions. We defined the function add, function subtraction, function division, function mount. So on your remote, on your TV remote, this is how they define and write those functions. Like you have the functions for switching on the TV, you have the function for playing the video, you have the function for playing for the next in the video, for pausing the video, for fast forwarding the video. All those functions, those are just different functions, and they have divided them into groups. Okay, so let's I think we need to do one last more program before we bring this tutorial to an end. So we need to write a C program to input any number from user and find cube of the given number using functions. So this is another program to do, to write using functions. And also we have another program, program 3. So these are also assignments. Write a C program to input radius of a circle from user and find diameter, circumference, and area of the given circle using function. So remember, the best way to learn any new programming language is to write programs in it. So all these programs, you need to do them practically if you are to master C programming. Then let's have another program 4. Write a C program to input 2 numbers or more numbers from user and find maximum and minimum of the given numbers using functions. So this is another program 4. Then we have program 5. Write a C program to input a number from user and check whether the given number is even or odd using functions. So let us just choose one and try to do it right now. Write a C program to input number or more from user and find maximum and minimum of the given number using functions. Let's write this one. So let's have a second. We are going to have second.c. So let's these are preprocessor. So yes, include standard standard input output.h. This is our header file, so we get the scanf and the printf. So as usual, we are going to declare our 2 functions. We have we need to give meaningful names to our functions. So let's just say int. Our functions are going to return int. Right, are they going to return int because we want them to return the minimum and the maximum? So let's just say int max like this. This is the name of the function. So let's int num, or we can say dap or whatever we can choose. Int num2. So these are our parameters for this function. Then we have the body of our function. So what exactly are we going to do? This time I'm trying to use the optional operator. So I'm going to check num. However, our condition num1 greater than num2. So this is what we are going to do. So let's just save the return statement. So return num1 greater than num2. If this is true, then this is num1. We are going to have or else it's going to give us num2. So this is it. This is an optional conditional statement. So we're saying if this is true, then we are going to have num1. So which means num1 will be the maximum. If it's false, then we have num2. So let's have another function. We are going to call it mean. Let's call it mean. So if num1 is greater than num2, so here is going to be num2, here we have num1. So it means the num2 will be what? If num1 is greater than num2, which means num2 will be the smallest, will be the minimum. After that, let's define our main function. Remember, when the compiler is compiling this program, it always starts with the main function. After that, the body of our main functions, let's declare 2 variables. Int num1, we want num1, and also int num2. After that, we are going to prompt the user to enter the value for num1 and num2. So let's do that. Let's printf and printf. Let's let the user tell the user to enter. Let's say enter the value of num1 like this. Then we write it on the new line. then we terminate that line. Let me just scanf. Let's scanf the value of num1. Remember, these are predefined functions, scanf and printf, and they are coming from the header file standard input output .h. So let's specify our space. This is our specifier, right? %d and the address of our variable, which is num1 in this scenario, and then we terminate that line. So let us copy these two lines. After copying these two lines, let's paste them like this so that we save our precious time. Okay. So they were done with prompting the user to enter the value of num1 and num2. So what's left is to make use of our functions right now. So this is what we're about to do. I'm going to say int maximum like this. Int maximum is equals to max. So we are saying assign the value coming from our function max to maximum. So I hope you are getting it. I hope you are following. And then let's have int minimum. Int minimum like this is equals to min like this. Then we pass in our arguments. So in all these programs, we have been passing our values by we have been passing our arguments by value, right? So I hope you are getting it. So engineer Danu come and explain how to pass by value, how to pass by reference, and also do the summarization. So stay tuned in. We are still here to do some work. After that, let's see. We want to print now the minimum and the maximum value. So printf %d is the maximum value. Let's have a new line. Then again %d is the minimum value. This means it's the minimum value. Let's just put it on a new line and let's have maximum comma minimum like this. Then we terminate that line and return 0 from our main function and return 0 from our main function like this. So here is the error somewhere. There was an error somewhere, but we have debugged it. So let's run this code and see what we are going. Enter the value of num1. Let's just say enter 20. Enter the value of num2. Let's just enter 10. So 20 is the maximum value, 10 is the minimum value. So this code is working perfectly. What we expected to see is coming out. So let me explain this code before we end this tutorial. So here we have defined two functions. The first function is called max, and it is taking two parameters, num1 and num2, and then it's returning the maximum value. Here we have used a conditional operator, this one. So we're saying if num1 is greater than num2, then it means num1 is the maximum, else num2 is the maximum. Let's go to our second functions. We have remember function declaration is optional. So here what we have done, we have just defined our function, and which means if you are defining and declaring at the same time. So this is what is happening. We have declared a function called min of data type int, which means it's returning an integer. So I hope you're getting that. After that, this is the most important part where we are calling our two functions. We are calling our functions max and our functions min, and these we are passing our arguments by value. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, shalom.